Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Nichecast for this lovely rugby league edition of the Nichecast coming to you earlier in the week. So we'll recap some NRLW Warriors footy from the weekend. We will take a look at what the Warriors have been doing in reserve grade and under 20s as well, because it's a very interesting kind of package for the Warriors over the weekend. And then I'll sort out what's happening. I'll offer some insight into what's happening with the Warriors women's NRL team as well, and then that will also mean that I update the NRL women's signing tracker to see what other females from Aotearoa Kiwi NRL Wahine are playing in the upcoming NRL women's competition. And then we might have a bit of time as well to suss out what's happening in Greater NRL, but who really cares what's happening in the NRL outside of our beautiful Kiwi NRL perspective? As always, if you listen to this and you appreciate what we're doing, jump on Patreon, support the Nichecast on Patreon. That's the best way to support us, directly straight up the guts. Or just like, subscribe, comment it up for the boys, and yeah, just support the Nichecast and the Nichecast in any way you can. We appreciate it. We're just out here battling, trying to serve up the good sporting content that apparently one or two people around Aotearoa enjoy. So the Warriors defeated the Cronulla Sharks on the weekend, 19 points to 18, and considering what we have seen recently from the Warriors, it was good to get a win. First and foremost, I don't really understand how the Warriors were unable to get wins recently, and I've talked about that ad nauseum, and to be honest, this win over Cronulla Sharks on Friday night was just more of the same, kind of, to be honest, but the Warriors won. So it's kind of this balance of appreciating the win, enjoying the win, and the win keeps the Warriors still in the mix for the top 8. They're sitting in 9th at the moment and they have 17 points, so they're only 1 point behind the Newcastle Knights, who are sitting in 8th, and they're only 3 points behind the Penrith Panthers and Parramatta Eels. So it's just about accumulating points and hoping that the footy sorts itself out, because there are some definite footy issues with the Warriors. 60% of possession, and the Warriors won by a field goal. And they also benefited greatly from Andrew Fafita having a bit of a brain explosion, going for a shoulder charge on a decoy runner, which I believe was Lachlan Burr. So a couple things fell the Warriors' way, and you would hope that they would be able to score more points than 19 points against the Cronulla Sharks, given that kind of situation, having 60% possession and just appearing to look pretty good outside of the same old Warriors issues where they get into the 20 metre zone and they can't really score points. So I think first and foremost, we got to appreciate the fact that they did get a win. They did whatever it took to get the win. There were some encouraging displays from Blake Green and Cody Nikorima in terms of how busy they were, and especially running the footy. So Cody Nikorima had 13 runs, Blake Green had 9 runs, and I believe that Blake Green himself had more runs than Shaun Johnson. Shaun Johnson had 7 runs. So Blake Green had more runs, 9 runs versus 7 runs for Shaun Johnson, but we do need to recognise the disparity in possession. So if the Warriors have 60% of the possession, you would expect Blake Green to have more runs than Shaun Johnson. But just there was like a clear objective from Blake Green and Cody Nikorima to run the footy, and I do like the look of Cody Nikorima running the footy down the left edge, especially if he can get a quick play the ball in the middle or just slightly, outside that left upright, and give Cody Nikorima, a 4-on-4 situation, a 5-on-5 situation, 3-on-3 situation. Cody Nikorima's got that speed on the left edge to get to the outside of a defender, bring another defender in, and then create the overlap on the outside. Blake Green obviously doesn't have the speed to skip to the outside of a player, But what Blake Green does tend to do is more run back into traffic. Like he steps into traffic, and that's how he runs the footy. He had 9 runs for 94 metres, which is over 10 metres per run. Cody Nikorima 13 runs, 125 metres per run. So we obviously don't need Cody Nikorima and Blake Green to be overly efficient, but it just shows their intent, their desire to run the footy. And their eyes. I won't go deep into the flaws of what we're seeing with the Warriors at the moment, because they are. I've talked about them at depth and ad nauseum, and it's kind of just repeating myself. They're just a stuttering attacking team at the moment with an okay defense. But if the basic premise is that Cody Nikorima, Blake Green are going to run the footy when the opportunity presents itself, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's going to take 20 runs, get over 200 metres. He was again emphatic in this game. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was absolutely emphatic, as he tends to always be, which is a beautiful thing for Warriors fans and Aotearoa Kiwis fans. But he also, had that grubber on the right edge where he forced a repeat set. And everyone loves to talk about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck running the footy, and he is easily the most dynamic runner of the footy in rugby league. He's got the best footwork, hands down. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck has the best footwork of either code, rugby league or rugby union. No one is messing with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's footwork. But the Warriors, I think they get more value out of Tuivasa-Sheck with those subtle little skill plays. So what kind of passing game does Tuivasa-Sheck have? I don't have his try assist numbers here, but that is something he does offer. And a little grubber to force a repeat set, it gets swept away by him having 25 runs for almost 300 metres. But you could argue that one forced dropout is as important to 200 running metres, given that the Warriors need those forced dropouts. They need those repeat efforts. They need those little touches of class from Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and that's exactly what he offered. And in terms of the structure, I have noticed Tuivasa-Sheck, when the Warriors have good ball, Tuivasa-Sheck sits out on the right edge, Cody Nikorima on the left edge, and Blake Green swings in between, which is cool. It just hasn't really yielded any wholesome results. And of course, in this game for the Warriors, there was no Kemba Malo and no David Fusitu'a. So we had Adam Pompey debut on the wing, and then Blake Ashford came into play centre with Gerard Beale pushing out to the wing. Adam Pompey's a really cool story. His dad did a haka when he presented him the jersey. His whānau did a haka in the stands. Adam Pompey went to Wesley College, then got recruited by the Roosters, and then due to that Peter O'Sullivan connection, Adam Pompey came back to Aotearoa to spend the summer with the Warriors, and here he is making his NRL debut. Pompey had 9 runs for 79 metres, which isn't amazing, but he's a debut winger, and he was probably shitting his pants, and he put in a solid game. He, I think in the post-match little interviews they did for the Warriors, there was no, he didn't drop any kicks or anything like that, so that's a good sign from Adam Pompey. I do like his size. I do like his stature. He's a similar shape to David Fusitu'a. He's more similar to David Fusitu'a than Kemba Malo, and I think if Pompey can get regular game time at this level, whenever that happens, I think he's going to be a lot more comfortable running the footy, and you're going to see far more effective and efficient running usage out of Adam Pompey than what you saw in that Cronulla Sharks game. But just the basic fundamentals, he's a big winger, and he's skillful. He's got, seems to have good footwork, seems to be mobile, as you'd expect from anyone who plays wing in the NRL. And I liked what I saw just from seeing him play against NRL players. He was effective. He did his job, and I expect him to get a whole lot better as well. So this is a Warriors team that was without 2 of their, key attributes in terms of the Warriors having the best meter-eating wingers, and when you consider Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, they've got one of the best back 3 perhaps in the game, because Kemamalo, Dave Fusatua, they score amazing tries. Kemamalo doesn't really drop a ball. He's always taking hit-ups, always making big meters. Dave Fusatua is a pretty solid winger as well. So you could argue that the Warriors have one of the best back threes in the NRL. And suddenly in this game, they were without two of those wingers. So that's why Tuivasa-Sheck's usage was so high with 25 runs. And Peter Hiku took 18 runs, Gerard Beale took 15 runs, so they definitely stepped up to fill that void. Beale was playing on the wing, and you got to be cautious about how we perceive this, because again, having 60% of the possession means that your running numbers are going to be dramatically inflated. So if the Warriors have 60% of the ball, Tuivasa-Sheck's going to put up amazing stats, depending on what you call amazing stats. Like if the typical pleb type of NRL statistical judgment is how many meters did you make in the game, whereas I tend to lean in, how efficient were you? How many meters did you get per run? And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck blows away the efficiency, but if the Warriors have 55% of the ball, or 51%, or 48% of the ball, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck might not have 25 runs, and then Jazz Tavanga might not have 18 runs. Lachlan Burr might not have 15 runs. Lisa Mao had 15 runs for 149 meters, which is all of these guys I wrote about in my blog post earlier Sunday, I think it was. All of those Warriors forwards with who had plenty of runs. Lisa Mao 15 runs, Isaiah Papali'i 13 runs, Jazz Tavanga 18 runs, Lachlan Burr 15 runs. That's above their season averages. And some of that is because of no Mamalo and no Fusatua, I do believe. But some of it is also because the Warriors had so much footy. And you're always going to get a statistical boost when you have that much footy. So it was a pretty solid game from the Warriors against the Cronulla Sharks. Nothing to really be amazed about. There is a little bit of funk here because Sam Lasoni had 6 runs for 65 meters. Bunty Afoa had 11 runs for 111 meters, which is good efficiency from those two coming off the bench, and both of them averaging over 10 meters per run. That's not impacted or influenced by the 60% possession. You still got to be efficient with your runs, and Bunty Afoa, Sam Lasoni coming off the bench, they offered that efficiency that perhaps just gave the Warriors a little boost in terms of running for 10 meters, getting a quick play of the ball, and allowing space for the halves to then run themselves. So just an interesting game from the Warriors. I like the fact that Adam Pompey came in, Blake Ayshford came into the team, Chanel Harris-Tavita has now played off the bench 2 games in a row. This game he went into hooker. Last week I think he spent time at left centre when Kemamalo left the field. And all of that is a vibe of guys coming into the NRL team and just doing their job. That whole next man up type of mindset, where you just trust whoever's coming into the team to do their job and contribute to a strong team performance. And this is where we work our way through the other grades, where the reserve team, they had a good win over Newtown Jets. The Newtown Jets are 10th out of 12th, and the Warriors are 8th out of 12th. So the Newtown Jets are one of 4 teams who are worse than the Warriors in reserve grades. So you kind of got to take that result with a grain of salt. The Warriors have to stack up the wins and whatever. But I'm more interested in the players that came in to help contribute to a win, because you had Paul Turner was a late call up to fullback with Adam Pompey going up to NRL, and Tane Milne he went back to play centre, having played a lot of edge back rower, edge forward, with Blake Ayshford going up to the NRL. So a couple of changes in the back line. And then you had Temple Kalepo, who started at hooker. He played 25 minutes at hooker. Sean Mullaney came off the bench for 55 minutes. So usually recent weeks, Tyler Slater started at hooker in reserve grade, and then Sean Mullaney's come off the bench. This time, Temple Kalepo, he's still Jersey Flegg eligible, just like Sean Mullaney is Jersey Flegg eligible, just like Tyler Slade is Jersey Flegg eligible. All three of them have played Jersey Flegg this season for the Warriors. So, the three reserve grade hookers at the Warriors are all Jersey Flegg eligible, which is pretty amazing when you think about like the depth and the future of the Warriors. There's obviously a lot of good players coming through at that Jersey Flegg level. On the bench, you also had King Vuniyayawa, who had been a Warriors contracted player for their reserve grade team last year, and then I think he dropped out of the Warriors group this year to go back and play Manurewa Marlins. He came in onto the bench and played 35 minutes with 9 runs for 116 metres, which is well over 10 metres per run. And for a player to come in from Auckland club footy and roll out such an emphatic, efficient display off the bench is bloody impressive. And that's very encouraging for the Warriors to have that environment where someone can do that. For a Warriors team to win 34-8, the big dogs in the forward pack, Chris Sate, Jackson Fraser, big dog now, Lingi Sao, Levaha Pulu, those guys on the fringe of the NRL, they were immense, and they stepped up hugely to lead the Warriors through the middle. And then we look at the Jersey Flegg group. So with Temple Kalepo going up to the reserve grade team, Taniela Otakulo, he started at hooker and pretty much played the whole game there, I think. So that was a little change there. You had William Whakatomafe coming into the halves alongside Sione Moala, and I believe those three, William Whakatomafe, Sione Moala, and Taniela Otakulo, they were all part of the New Zealand residents under 18 wider squad, as was Temple Kalepo, who was the hooker in reserve grade. So that's just explaining some of the Warriors, farm system. Their development programs are looking pretty good in terms of who they're signing and their like pedigree, what they offer. The Jersey Flegg team had arguably the best result of the weekend, defeating Cronulla Sharks. Cronulla Sharks and Jersey Flegg were top of the table coming into this game and still are top of the table, whereas the Warriors are back in 9th out of 14 teams. So it was definitely a huge upset for the Jersey Flegg Warriors, and a bloody impressive one at that. I like a lot of these Jersey Flegg players for the Warriors. Casey Smith was playing at centre. He's been used in the halves primarily this season. No Patrick Alea. You had a couple of changes, so no Philip Makatoa in reserve grade as well. Junior Pua came in to start a prop. Makatoa played reserve grade. Brody Tamarua was pretty impressive actually. He's a big tall forward, but he has plenty of skill. He was doing a lot of the kicking. He's a link man in the midfield, passing the footy. I like the look of Brody Tamarua, and to be honest, I like the look of a lot of these Warriors Jersey Flegg players who have also spent a lot of time playing reserve grade this season. So in reserve grade this week, you had Philip Makatoa, Sean Mullaney, Temple Kalepo, that's 3 players, and Paul Turner. So that's 4 players who are Jersey Flegg eligible playing reserve grade footy for the Warriors, which is always an encouraging sign. The Warriors have also announced their women's squad for the NRL women's competition coming up, and it's headlined by having Honey Hirami. She has come across from the St. George Illawarra Dragons, so that's obviously a massive signing for the Warriors to have Honey Hirami playing centre, probably going to play left centre. And the players returning from last year's squad, I think 11 players from last year's Warriors women's squad aren't in this year's squad, and the players backing up from last year are Georgia Hale, Amber Cunny, Angelina Leatawa, Hilda Mariu, Vanessa Molia Fraser, Api Nichols, Tanaka Jazz, Noble Bell, Aneta Claudia Nasala, Crystal Rota, Aisha Lee Smalley, and Crystal Tamarua are all there. You also have Shante Poko, who was a standout player for the Kiwi Ferns. She's got a rugby union background from Canterbury, played rugby league in Canterbury as well, made the Kiwi Ferns team that played against Samoa earlier this year, and then she's been selected for the Warriors squad. And another impressive Kiwi Ferns debutant was Kathleen Fortin-Kedemete, who played on an edge. She was also extremely impressive. So the Warriors have snapped up two of the most impressive Kiwi Ferns players from that game against Samoa, which is a good sign. And then they've also got a couple of Fijians who played rugby sevens, and they've also dabbled in rugby league as well. Let me just get these names. You got Roella Radinini Yavuni and Tamaima Ravisi. They won gold for Fiji at the Pacific Games in the Rugby League Nines. They've both represented Fiji in Rugby Sevens, and they've been playing league in Auckland for Richmond Roses, which is has a huge contingent in this Warriors team. I think 13 players were in the Women's Premiership final last weekend between Richmond and Papakura. Richmond had Madison Bartlett, Georgia Hale, Vanessa Molia-Fraser, Aneta Claudia Nuasala, Shante Poko, the two Fijians, Roella Radini Yavuni and Tamaima Ravisi, and Crystal Tamarua. Papakura had Hilda Mariu, Api Nichols, Crystal Rota, Atawhai Tupaya, and Kathleen Fortin-Kedemi. And Papakura actually won that final, which is a pretty cool thing. So it's a very strong squad. When I wrote about this, I put together like a little group of players who are probably definitely going to be in the top 17, top 13. Like Api Nichols is going to be your fullback. Hilda Mariu is probably going to get one of the wing spots. Hani Hirami is going to get one of the centre spots. Georgia Hale is going to be in the halves. You're definitely going to have Nuasala and Smalley in the middle of the field. Crystal Rota is going to be your hooker. And then Kathleen Fortin-Kedemete and Angelina Leotawa, they may be your edge forwards. Fortin-Kedemete is definitely going to be an edge forward. She was there for the Kiwi Ferns. Leotawa has a bit more versatility, so she could go anywhere. Player I'm most interested in is Shante Poko and where she plays. She played a bit of halves for the Kiwi Ferns in that game against Samoa, so she can play there. It's just where she fits in that's going to be very interesting for me. In terms of players with other teams, Brisbane Broncos have Rona Peters, Amber Paris Hall, Lavinia Gould, who plays Super Women's Rugby and NRL Women's Footy as well. Sydney Roosters have Nita Maynard and Kiana Takarangi, who both played for the Kiwi Ferns recently. Dragons have Botil Witt-Walsh, who we are still waiting to see if she wants to play for the Kiwi Ferns at some stage. And the Dragons also have the contingent from the Broncos championship team last year: Maitua Fetarika, Tuila Fotumawala, Kimiora Nati, Alexandria Kirawi, and Ngā Tokoturu Arakua. We did get a little interview with Tuila Fotumawala. She dropped a couple of gems and just great insight into what she's up to, the decisions she's made. So check that out on the website if you do appreciate Women's Rugby League or just want to be inspired by a pretty amazing young lady. Tuila Fotumawala gave us great answers and was a pleasure to deal with. So shout out to her, one of the best Women's Rugby League players in the whole wide world. I am going to put together maybe a little thingy about Kiwi NRL teams to jump on as we move into finals footy. And at the moment, after the last round of footy, round 18, we've got a top four of Melbourne Storm, Sydney Roosters and Canberra Raiders from a Kiwi NRL perspective. So Rabbitohs are second, but they don't have any Kiwi NRL players in their NRL group just yet. Melbourne Storm, cream of the crop. They're the best in the business. You got Jerome Hughes at fullback, Jesse Bromwich, Nelson Sofa-Solomona in the middle, Kenny Bromwich on an edge. You got Brandon Smith coming off the bench. He's been amazing. And Melbourne Storm are the pick of the bunch. So if you want a Kiwi NRL team to follow as things get serious, Melbourne Storm. They are the ones. They are the leaders. They are the best team in the NRL at the moment, and they've done so with amazing contributions from Kiwi NRL players. Sydney Roosters got Joey Manu at centre, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, Siaso Tokiaho in the middle of the field. Then you got Isaac Liu, Sitili Tupuanuia, and Poasa Fa'amasili as well. The thing about the Roosters is that they've done a great job of bringing those younger guys through. So guys like Sitili Tupuanuia and Poasa Fa'amasili may not feature too heavily late in the back end of the season, but they've been hugely important throughout the season, playing, just filling in with during Origin and contributing to strong Roosters performances. And the Roosters always do a good job of bringing those type of players through to the NRL. Canberra Raiders, probably the funkiest Kiwi NRL team at the moment, given what Sean's Nickel Clockstead is up to. Just seeing him blossom at the Canberra Raiders this season has been fantastic. I love it. And then you've got Joseph Tapine doing a solid job. Jordan Rapana's on one wing, and then Bailey Simonson, who played Sevens rugby for New Zealand, he's on the other wing. So you pretty much got a Kiwi NRL back three for the Canberra Raiders. Then you got Joseph Tapine in the forward pack. You have Savila Havili coming off the bench, as well as Iosia Soliola, the OG veteran. So if you're I can understand why some people may not want to support the Storm. I can understand why some people may not want to support the Roosters, because those are the big dogs of the NRL. They're the best teams in the NRL, in my opinion. Canberra Raiders are the funkiest team. They're the team you probably want to get on the wagon of at the moment. And I'll probably update this every week. This is how I'll do instead of going back and looking at the games that have been, I'll just keep updating, which NRL teams are teams that you should keep an eye on from a Kiwi NRL perspective, and just see what they're up to, what they're doing. And I think the Raiders are one of those teams that Kiwi NRL fans who don't support a team, they should be watching the Raiders, because the Raiders, they could be anything this season. They could win the premiership, who knows? And if they continue to play good footy, it's going to have, they've got a strong English contingent, Josh Hodgson, John Bateman, Ryan Sutton, those type of dudes, Elliot Whitehead, they're all there. They're all, key players for the Raiders. But then you've got Sean's Nickel Clockstead, Rapana, Simonson, Joseph Tapine. You've just got a hearty crew of Kiwi NRL players there who all do their jobs and add a bit extra to that Canberra Raiders team as well. I'll be back later in the week to roll through the team list, any interesting selections, and preview the coming weekend's footy. Last week I didn't do any rugby league podcasts, so it was just a bit of a crazy week, but we're back here, so stay tuned for later in the week. Definitely be another rugby league podcast episode coming your way, and kia kaha, stay beautiful. We'll be back. Thank you for listening and supporting the Niche Case Bra. Cheer, cheer.